Hey Guitar fam, what is going on? It's Nate Savage here. This is the first of quite a few cover songs that we're going to be doing in 2021, so I'm pretty excited to get these out there just so you can learn the songs that you love. And this one, super popular, Shallow by Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. I'm happy to be bringing this to you. So if you want to see the performance for the song, just skip to the end of the video. The entire thing is there for you. And if you need help getting to the level to where you can play all these chords and get these finger picking patterns down, all the technical stuff, go to guitarfam.com, create your complimentary account. Once you do that, there are lots of courses you can go through, like the Guitar Foundations course, the Guitar Fam practice plan, and there are some premium courses there too that you can pick up to help support the site and the channel. Things like the bar chord masterclass just came out if you're struggling with bar chords. Also, if you need the extra help, you can book a personal private one-on-one lesson with me. The first one's complimentary, so there's no risk. Let's get into this. Okay, to start off, let's just take a look at the chords that you need to be able to play this song. It's a handful of open chords and one bar chord too. The first one is an E minor 7. And it's the one that's just like a normal E minor 7 with your first and second fingers, and then your third finger grabs the 7th, that D up there. And this is the order that they appear in the song. Then you have a D over F sharp with your thumb getting that F sharp. You have a regular G. Probably the 4-finger G is what I use most of the time throughout the entire song. Even then, I don't even fret the top high E string because it's not used that much. Then a C, regular C, open D, regular open A minor, and then you have an A minor with a G in the bass. So just reach out with your pinky, grab that G all the way over there, third fret of the low E string. You have a B minor, you have to use that bar chord. Then you have a D sus2. So just take your middle finger off of a regular D, and then you have a normal A chord, an open A chord as well. That'll do it for those. Okay, there's not a heck of a lot going on as far as the left hand on this stuff. It's just going kind of cycling through those open chords. Most of the action is on your right hand for this song. So, and even then, it's extremely repetitive with your fretting hand. But if you want to play just like the recording, there's a lot of variation on your right hand. And that's where the complicated part kind of comes in. You can either play it just like the recording like I'm going to show you, or you can just, kind of make up your own general patterns with these chords, because the main chord progression goes all the way through the intro, first verse, the interlude, the second verse, and it changes on the chorus a little bit, but the whole first and second verse are pretty much the same chord progression. So let's get into that. The intro is E minor 7, D over F sharp, then a G. And I'm not playing the high E string for any of that, and I just play down, down, B string, D, and G string, and then switch to your D over F sharp, hit a bass note, a low E, and then pinch the bass note and the G and B strings, and then hit the G chord with just your thumb, first and second fingers on the low E, the G and B string. So, and you want to stop it in between the D over F sharp and the G. So mute it. You're gonna see that rest between it and then hit the G, and that's kind of a recurring theme you're gonna see throughout. And one thing I should say here is that for the most part, as a general rule, my thumb is getting the low 3 strings, and my index finger, middle finger, and ring finger are planted on the G, B, and high E strings, although they do come down occasionally a string pair throughout this song, just depending on what pattern is going on. Anyway, play that one phrase. Then you move to a C, and this is where kind of the planting of fingers up here comes into play. So thumb on the A string, index finger on the G, middle finger on the B string, and then another middle finger on the B string, but my pinky goes up to the 3rd fret of the B string right there. And then my index finger back to the G, and then my thumb back to the root note at C. And then to finish off the C chord, just the open high E string from my 3rd finger. Then my middle finger grabs that same note that I'm fretting here with my 4th finger there on the 3rd fret of the B string. So that whole little phrase, slow this one down. And there's some accents there too, just to give it a little bit of feel. And then you move to a G chord, bass note, G and B strings are the first and second finger, then a rest, and then the D chord, just these 3 strings, D, B, and G strings there, with thumb, first and second finger. And then you have this kind of a recurring little embellishment that you have. So you play that D, and then you reach up, play the high E string, open, hammer on, pull off, and then come with your second finger to the B string, and then pinch the G and D strings with your first and thumb. So. And then you kind of restate the first little to wrap up the intro. And it's a little bit different though. You don't have the double strum there. You just have your thumb, G string, B string, G string to the D over F sharp, just a single bass note, and then pinch the chord, thumb first and second fingers on the low E, G and B strings, and then mute it, and then hit the G. And that kind of wraps up the intro. Let me play the whole intro for you. Okay, that may sound like a lot, but the intro is going to carry over through a lot of the song. So like the first page and a half you can get through with just kind of variations on what we've learned so far. So as soon as the first verse starts, put your E minor 7 back on. And the fingerings are a little bit different here for your picking hand. So that's the only thing you really have to pay attention to. So thumb, and then you can go thumb on the D string, then middle finger on the B, and then index finger on the open G. Then you mute, move to your D over F sharp, pinch, E, B, and G strings, and then mute again, move to a G, pinch the same string. So. And sometimes I use my first, second, third fingers. I move them down a string set like this. And then the next measure on beat 2, you still have your G on. You just pinch with your first and second fingers. You play the G and D strings, and then back to the root note, and then high E string, which you're actually fretting with your fourth finger this time, and then the B string. So. And the rhythm there is a little bit weird. So from the beginning of the verse, 1, 2, and. So you come in on the 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'll play that whole little line. And one thing I should mention here is that like I like to kind of slap the guitar like that, but in the performance I intentionally didn't do that because I didn't want it to be too distracting, because it's a pretty soft song for most of it. And then when you get to that point, you switch to the C. Nothing different with the progression here. Just pinch the A and B strings. I use my thumb and middle finger. 2, 3, 4, and of 3, hit the B string again. And then on the 4 E and of 4, hit the B and high E string. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's a bit of a weird one too. So just take the counting really slow on that. Then you move to a G and play just the root note there with your thumb. Then play the G and B strings and hammer on to the G string. So. And you already kind of set up for that D chord there anyway. So for the fingering on this, I tend to use this for the G, because it sets me up for the D. And then you have this little theme coming back in again on beat 4. Same thing. So you're playing a D chord, open the high E string, hammer on, pull off, and then the 3rd fret that you're fretting on the B string there. So let me play the whole first line of the first verse for you. More the same on the next one. Go back to your E minor. Fingering changes a little bit. So low E, G, B, G, D over F sharp, but just the root note. Then the whole chord with a pinch, just these 3 fingers, and then to the G. So that time, this time through, if you're looking at this, it'd be measure 11. And hold that out through the next measure, that G. And this is a little bit simpler when you get to this C chord. Just play the root note, A string, open G, B string with your middle finger, back to the G string with your index, back to the root with your thumb, and then just descend from the B string with your middle finger, G string with your index, and then the D string with your thumb. So, and then you move to a G chord, root, G and B strings, mute the strings, then move to a D, and just pinch the D, G, and B strings, and then you play the G string with your index finger, and then you have your little theme again, little embellishment, and then your index finger and middle finger grab the B and G strings. So let me play that whole second line of verse 1 for you. 2, 3, 4. And then more the same thing, exact same progression on the next line of the verse. But the picking is different here again. And you can look at this in the tab. Just 2 root notes on the low E, B string, G, and D strings with these 2 fingers. Then just a root note over the F sharp for the D over F sharp chord. And then pinch the chord. And then move to a G. And then you hold that out through the entire next measure, that G chord, then move to a C. And that's the pattern you want here. The rhythm changes a little bit, so you have thumb, index on the G, middle on the B, back to the G, back to the root with your thumb, and then you have a quarter note here with your ring finger on the high E, and then one more 8th note with your middle finger there on the B string. So go to a G chord, just the root, and then just the G and B strings, then a mute, rest, to a D, and then root for the D, and you have a full D chord here, or a non-sus2 chord, root, high E, B. So that line of the verse, 2, 3, 4. And then to wrap up this verse, do the same thing again, same progression for the E minor this time, E minor 7, thumb, index, middle, index, D over F sharp, just the root, then pinch the chord, mute, and then a G on the and of 4, and that carries through the next measure. Then go to a C, and it changes a little bit here for the C, thumb, index on the G, middle on the B, back down to the G, back to the root, and then your pinky comes down on the 3rd fret of the B. Put that with your middle finger, open, G, and then back to the root. I know it's confusing, just take it one measure at a time. So, and then go to a G, just the root, and then just the G and B strings, the index finger and middle finger, then mute, and then a D. So that's the last line of that verse. 2, 3, 4. And here it comes back to kind of the intro or re-intro. I guess you call it an interlude of the song. It's the same progression, it's just E minor. But the finger picking pattern for this is low root. And you can either use your index finger or your thumb for the D string, and then the B string, and then your index and second fingers get the G into your string. So then go to a D over F sharp, just the root, pinch the chord, mute, then a G. And you have the exact same chord progression in the next 2 measures, but the picking pattern kind of flip-flops. You go root, D and G strings with first and second fingers, then the B string with your third finger, back to the D and G strings with your first and second fingers, then root of the D over F sharp, pinch the D over F sharp, mute, and G. So let me play that entire little interlude for you. Here's the next phrase. Okay, more of the same stuff in verse 2. It's really the same thing. You just have to pay attention to the finger picking pattern. So I'll pick it up here so I don't bore you to death in this video. It's just an E minor, D over F sharp, just root, then pinch, G. Then you move to a C. Same exact pattern as last time, just up, back down. Then G, root, G and B strings, mute, hit that D, and then just the root note of the D, and then you have your little embellishment again here. So the second line of the second verse is very similar to the first line. There are a few minor differences. Instead of going to start this one out, you just play the single notes. D over F sharp, just the root, pinch the chord, mute, then G. Then you switch over to a C. Same exact way you played it in the first phrase of this second verse. Then to a G, root, G and B strings, mute, D. Pinch those strings, the D, G, and B strings. And instead of having the embellishment here, you just have, so just D, high E, B string with a D chord on. The next phrase switches back to an E minor 7. Nothing new here. But when you get to this G this time, we're not fretting the third fret of the B string. We're just leaving that open. And then you let that ring out. And on the end of 2 in the next measure, you have an open B string. And then the end of 3, you have the open G and D strings. And on the end of 4, you have the open G and B string. So the counting on this one's a little bit weird. I'll play that one more time. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. After that, you just go to a C chord, but this time you're only playing a C note. Just the low root note with your thumb for one whole measure, and then you move to a G and play that for a half note, just the root. And then on beat 3 of that measure, you have a D chord that you pinch, just the D, G, and B strings. Then you have your little embellishment, so open, 2nd fret, pull off, 3rd fret of the B. So let me play that whole line for you. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it for that one. Okay, you have one line left in this verse. It starts off the same way. E minor 7, D over F sharp, rest, and then G. And then on the and of 2 of the next measure, you have just the note you're fretting on the B string, 3rd fret. And I play with my 2nd finger there, my middle finger. And then the next measure, you have a C. You have just the root note on the A string for 1, 2. And then for 3 and 4, and you just descend down the chord there, 3 and 4 and. Then you move to a G, you have 1 and 2, 3 on a D. So you're gonna just roll up a G chord on the low E, D, and G strings, and the rhythm for that is 1 and 2 and. And then on 3, you have a D chord to just pinch. So let me play the last line of that verse. Okay, here's where things start to change a little bit. We're deviating from our chord progression, and the main chord progression here is A minor, D over F sharp, G, D, E minor 7. And that's for the next few lines. We'll be using just that chord progression. So get that under your fingers first. And the main pattern here for the A minor 7 is, or just the A minor, it's just thumb on the A string, thumb on the D string, index finger on the G, and then second, third finger on the high B and E strings. And you're gonna have 1 and 2 and 3. And then for and 4, you just have the G and D strings. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then you're gonna move to a D over F sharp. And this is actually a D sus2 over F sharp. And the pattern here is just index finger, G string, low E string, thumb, D string, thumb, index finger, G string, and then you hold that out for a whole beat. And then for the and 4 and, you just have the top 3 strings descending. E, B, G, so. Then when you move to the G chord, you just have the low root note, G string, B string, G string, and that's with your first and second fingers there. And this is a little bit of a tricky part here. You have to move to a D major chord, grab the D string with your thumb, then B string with your second finger there. Then you have to reach out with your pinky to grab the 4th fret of the D string, and grab that with your thumb. And then the second fret that you're already playing or fretting with your index finger, you just grab with your index finger on the G string. So it's easier to watch me play this than it is for me to explain it to you. Check it out. This is for the D chord. One more time. I'd recommend just doing that to get it down. From there you move to an E minor chord. Play the G string with your index finger, D string with your thumb, B string with your second finger, G string with your first finger, D string with your thumb, and then high E string with your third finger, then put your third finger down to get that 7th in there with your middle finger, and then your index finger grabs the D string. That's a bit of a weird one though. Let me play that entire first line of the chorus for you. Okay, the second phrase of the chorus is almost the exact same. It just changes a little bit as far as the pattern goes on the E minor 7 chord at the end. So A minor is the same. Then D over F sharp. Same. Make sure not to play that high E string, the second fret of the high E string on that one. Then a G is the same. Then your D is the same, that weird. And here's where it changes a little bit. Play an E minor 7, low E string, high E string, B, G. That G is for a quarter note, and then you just play high E, B, G again. So we play that second phrase of the chorus. And it kind of goes through the same thing. Same progression here. It's a little bit different pattern. Instead of, you just play the high E string with your third finger there instead of both the high E and B strings there, but it's pretty much the same. And then here is where things get a little bit different. You have your A minor over G. You have to reach out there, grab that G with your pinky, play that as a root note, and then descend down high E, B, G. Then you have your D over F sharp. And I'm just playing the root, D string, G string, B string, and then I make it into a sus2 and just roll down those 3 notes, high E, B, G string. So those 2 measures so far. Then you move to a G. Nothing too difficult there, just low E string, G string, B, G string. Then go to a D, open D, B string, G string, back to the root. I'm using just these 3 fingers for that. And then you go to an E minor, 7, low E, high E, B, G for quarter note, and then high E, B, G again. So that phrase of the chorus is just okay, on to the last phrase of the chorus. Exact same progression here, just a couple tiny little variations for the picking hand. A minor, and that's just A string, D, B, G, and then A over G again, A minor over G, low E, B, G, D. Then you go to a D over F sharp. It's the same pattern right here as the last phrase. And here, this is the same too, this G to the D. And this is where it changes a little bit. You go to an E minor here, but you play the low E string for 1, 2, 3. And on the end of 3, you have and, 4, and, just on the top 3 strings. And then again, you keep that E minor 7 on, and this kind of rounds out the chorus. Low E, D, B, G, D, and then the high E and B strings at the same time. I'm going to play that whole last phrase for you and just really break this down measure by measure, because I know this is a lot of variation that's not really that much different, but if you want to play it note for note, it kind of matters. So here you go, last phrase of the chorus. 2, 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4. All right, let's go into the bridge of the song. This is where your B minor and bar chord comes in. So you have A string with your thumb, D string with your thumb, B string with your index finger grabs the G string, then you go back to the root with your thumb on the A string, then high E string, third finger, B string, second finger, G string, first finger. So see how my thumb's kind of bouncing forth between the A and D strings, and these 3 fingers are kind of staying stationary. That really helps kind of keep me on track there. Then you move to a D sus2, and this is kind of a weird one. Just listen to the rhythm of this. Just try to sing that boo. Da, 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 da. And that's just rolling up D, G, B, G, high E, B, G. Then you move to an A. You have a root note on the A string for quarter note. Then you play the B string, G string, make it an A sus2. Play the open B string with your middle finger, G string with your first finger, D string with your thumb. So and you move to an E minor 7 again. And you have that, it's just a low E string, D string, B, G, high E, B, G. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that open G gets a quarter note there. So let me play that first phrase of the bridge. This is probably one of the weirdest ones throughout the song. Then after that, it starts off, the second phrase starts off kind of the same way. It starts off on that B minor with the exact same phrase, so that's nice. And that's as far as it goes. It changes it up here. You just roll up a D major chord, starting on the D, G, B, and high E strings. Then you have your little embellishment. So that whole measure with the D. And then you move to an A chord. And that's the measure with the A. It's just A, B, G, B, G, D. So let me play that whole second phrase of the bridge for you. The only tricky part about that is on that, as far as the rhythm goes, is on that A you have a quarter note, 2 eighth notes, but that next eighth note's tied to an eighth note, so it's really quarter note, and then just finish the phrase. Okay, the chorus going into the end of the song gives us a little break from our finger picking patterns. We just have an A minor for one measure, then a D over F sharp for one measure, a whole note. Then we have a G5, which is just this normal 4-finger G chord, but you're letting off the pressure on your index finger and muting that A string with this middle finger, kind of letting it lay over, and you can do the whole, strum the whole chord like that. And that's just for 2 beats for that G5, and then a D for 2 beats, and then a regular E minor for the next full measure, one whole note. After that, we get into what would be kind of the big chorus for the outro of the song. So we have an A minor, and this is where the patterns get a little bit funky here again. You go A, D, G, and then hop over to the high E. And you can do that however you want. You can do thumb, thumb, index, ring. I kind of tend to do like that, but it's up to you. Then you go to an A minor with the G in the bass. Just root, high E, B, G. Then go to a D over F sharp and just roll up, low E, D, G, B. And then take your middle finger off for a sus2. And go high E string, B string, G string. So the D chord will be, then move to a G, and that's just low E, G, B, G. Move to a D, D, B, G, D, and then move to an E minor, low E, high E, B, G, and that G is a quarter note, and then you go high E, G, B again. And this is the main pattern and progression throughout this last chorus. I'll play that first phrase and then we'll get into the variations for the last 2 times I repeat. So next measure, or the next time through this phrase, the A minor and the A minor over G are the exact same. Actually, the D over F sharp is the same too. G is the same. D is the same. And then E is the same. So we got lucky there. It's the exact same pattern played for the first phrase and the second phrase. The third phrase is where it changes a little bit. The A pattern changes, so you have the A string, D string, B string, G string. Then you switch to A minor over G again. And the pattern changes there a little bit too, so you have the low E string, and then just B, G, D. Then you have your D over F sharp. Nothing changes there, nothing changes for the G, nothing changes for the D. Changes a little bit on the E minor 7 we have here, but it's not too bad. You don't have that quarter note in there this time. You have low E, high E, B, G, and then go right to the high E, B, G, D, and finish with an E minor. Let me play that last phrase of the chorus for you, just because it's a little different. So that's it for this song, and you may be thinking that's it. That was a lot. That was a 40-minute video for a song that did not sound that hard. And you're right. If you don't want to play it note for note, just learn the first phrase of each verse in each chorus, and you can kind of use that as the foundation to just play through these chord progressions. But if you want to be a purist and really get the song down just like the recording, it's worth putting in the time for, because you'll be developing a lot of really important skills that are foundational to playing the guitar. And if you need help with those foundations, go to guitarfam.com, create a complimentary account, go through the courses we have for you there, and you can even pick up a premium course like the Bar Chord Masterclass, or schedule a private lesson with me. I'll be looking forward to meeting you. See you later.
Tell me something something else you're searching for. I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I feel myself. Tell me something, boy. Are you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I feel myself